Welcome to another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement. I'm here at the News Forum where all voices matter. With the very public rebuke of Justin Trudeau by Chinese President Xi Jinping, Canada-China relations is back in the news. It really never went away. Here to discuss China and Asia more generally is Dr. Jacob Kovalio. He is a professor at the Department of History at Carleton University in Ottawa. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. I guess my first question is the rather obvious one given the introduction, but let's discuss Xi Jinping's reaction to Prime Minister Trudeau at the G20 summit. What's your take on that?
Well, I wasn't surprised, to be frank with you, in the sense that Xi Jinping is a very volatile kind of leader, and he behaved towards our prime minister in a manner that is not unusual at all. For example, he had a one-on-one with, actually at the Chinese delegation with a Japanese delegation led by Prime Minister Kishida. And when the Japanese prime minister expressed his concern with the aggressive manner in which the Chinese military had been behaving in the area of East China Sea, where the Senkaku Islands were concerned, Xi Jinping brushed him off, saying that is a domestic Chinese issue, which of course it is not at all. And if you have if you draw a broader point of reference, if you consider the manner in which Prime Minister Harper was treated or approached in a very inelegant manner by then Prime Minister Wen Jiabao, that makes us aware of some kind of a pattern, which is one of unacceptable supremacism. In a way, under certain circumstances, it borders on racism, which is the fundamental approach of Chinese nationalism towards all others who are not what they are. On the whole, historically, we have to be very much aware of the manner in which, or the angle from which China approaches those who are not what they are. Until the second half of the 19th century, China did not recognize, didn't even relate to the issue of a state, only civilizations, and only one, the Chinese civilization. The Chinese term Tianxia refers to all that's under heaven in the context of the one and only supposedly civilization having to be respected by all others who are much lower in stature than they are. There has been a very strong revival of this very unfortunate kind of approach, which again, in the context of our prime minister being brushed off deliberately, of course, by the Chinese ruler. And before that, going back to the Hu Jintao era, President Sarkozy of France, again, the very unpleasant other encounters between Chinese rulers and rulers or leaders of democratic countries. For example, at the Copenhagen Conference on the environment, then President Obama was dealt with in a very disrespectful manner. Again, this is a pattern.
So this seems to be you're saying this wasn't just a one-off with Prime Minister Trudeau. It's a pattern of how the Chinese leadership deals with foreign heads of government.
Yes, and that extends to even to the behavior of Chinese diplomats, ambassadors. For example, in the case of our country, with two Lus, Lu Shumin and Lu Shaye, who expressed themselves in terms that if the other way, if the situation were reversed, the Beijing would have reacted completely differently and in a very swift way. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that if we want to be respected by others, we have to respect ourselves and never to take anything as something that we have to give in order to sort of get along, if you will. And that is something that is much more pronounced under Xi Jinping, in other words, since December of 2012. And I'd like to add, I'd like Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, we're going to take a brief break, Dr. Kovalio. Just hang on there, and we'll
Yeah,
come back after the break and continue our conversation.
thank you.
Please stay with us.